المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد الحمد لله. Continuing on with the routine of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're talking about some of the sunnahs of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he would engage in his meal, and some of the things that have been narrated in that regard. عن عمر بن أبي سلمة رضي الله عنهما قال كنت غلاما في حجر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وكانت يدي تطيش في الصحفة فقال لي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا غلام سم الله وكل بيمينك وكل مما يليك. So this is from Umar ibn Abi Salama radiallahu anhu, who used to be a young man, and he was in the company of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he's talking about when he's having a meal, a shared meal with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that his hand used to roam all over the dish. And again, it was a bigger dish, about 10 people would sit and they could eat at a time. And so his hand would go kind of all over the place, grabbing food from everywhere. And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says to him, young man, first and foremost, say Bismillah. Right? First and foremost, say Bismillah, eat with your right hand, and eat from that which is closer to you. Right? Eat from that which is closer to you. And so some of the etiquettes that the Prophet ﷺ taught about eating the shared meal. And again, it depends on what's your culture and how you serve food in your culture nowadays. Most people have their own dish. But you can still apply all of these sunnahs by first and foremost obviously saying Bismillah before you eat, eating with your right hand, and still from even maybe the food that is closest to you, taking from there rather than jumping across the table and all this kind of stuff. But these are some of the etiquettes the Prophet ﷺ taught to ensure that when you're sharing a meal with people that you're not disturbing other people or causing them even the slightest bit of harm. And these are some of the things that are ingrained in the daily practices, that even for something as small as a meal, you wouldn't be causing people any kind of harm. And more information about using the right hand, and Hafsa رضي الله عنها زوج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يجعل يمينه لطعامه وشرابه وثيابه ويجعل شماله لما سوى ذلك. Hafsa رضي الله عنها, she mentions that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, he would use his right hand for food, for drinking, and for clothing. Meaning he would grab his clothes with his right hand and start with the right side of his body when he was putting his clothes on. And he left his left side for everything else. And we know that from the everything else was issues like cleaning yourself in the restroom and these kinds of things that required to clean yourself with. He would use his left hand for that. And then he also sallallahu alaihi wasallam specifically told people not to use their their left hand for eating and drinking. So it's an observed sunnah, and then it is a verbal sunnah. It is a command of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the command is for preference, obviously, meaning there's great ajr in doing it. And again, there could be sin in intentionally violating the command of the Prophet ﷺ, even if it's not a command of obligation. عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا أكل أحدكم فليأكل بيمينه وإذا شرب فليشرب بيمينه فإن الشيطان يأكل بشماله ويشرب بشماله. That whenever any one of you eats, he should eat with his right hand. Whenever any one of you drinks, he should drink with his right hand. For it is Shaitan that eats with his left hand and drinks with his left hand. And so this is again, one of the things we've been told not to do is not imitate the kuffar. Right? In general, we've been told not to imitate the kuffar and things that are more specific to them. And then when it comes to Shaitan, right, we are specifically told not to imitate Shaitan. So Shaitan, out of his, this pettiness and anger and all of this stuff, he's intentionally going to do things the way Allah does not want them to be done. And so one of the things he intentionally does is he eats with his left hand, and he drinks with his left hand. And so the Prophet ﷺ said this is specifically an action of Shaitan. So do not do this, right? Do not imitate the actions of Shaitan. And the one we'll end with today is that the Prophet ﷺ used to eat with 3 fingers. So when they were eating, again, they didn't have utensils. So eating with 3 fingers, and the most common that makes sense is the thumb, the pointer, and the middle finger. He would eat with these 3 fingers, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. عن كعب بن مالك رضي الله عنه قال رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يلعق أصابعه الثلاث من الطعام. That Ka'b ibn Malik رضي الله عنه, he said, I saw the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم licking his 3 fingers after eating. Right, licking his 3 fingers after eating. And the Prophet ﷺ also mentioned that, or he was أمر بلعق الأصابع والسحفة. قال إنكم لا تدرون في أيه البركة. That the Prophet ﷺ would get all the food off of his fingers, and he would gather it from the dish, and he would finish every single piece of food that was left on the dish, and he would eat it. And he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you don't know in which piece of this food there is barakah. Right? So this is rizq. We mentioned that yesterday as well, that this is provision from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So finishing off every bit of food that is on your plate, that is on your finger, and the Prophet ﷺ said, you don't know which portion of this meal has the most barakah or has the barakah, right? So eat all of it as much as you can. And again, if you like the food, he ate it. If he didn't like the food, he didn't find fault with it, but he left it as it was. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to follow these sunnahs of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jazakumullah khair wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.